Hey everyone, Coach HKNA here of Higher Running and Hoka Athlete. Just wanted to get a Training Talk Tuesday or Thursday out. This is episode, I believe, 46 or is it 47? Lost count. Anyway, we're going to dive right in with your top voted question. Hope this finds you well. Top voted question from last week was, sometimes in life there are long periods where training is difficult and to achieve because of kids, work, health, etc. Do you have any tips for what to focus on when I'm in maintenance mode? Should I focus on mileage, speed, or a variation of workouts? And do you have any tips on motivation when racing is not an alternative? Thanks for the great videos and inspiration. Been following along for years. Thank you for that positive feedback. This is a moving target in life and running and training, and it's going to depend on your personal goals as well as what may happen in life. Maybe you have a work project coming up, maybe you have a newborn, maybe you have a lot of family reunion, obligations running around, life, work, stress, balance. Maybe it's the off season, maybe it's winter and it's snowy and icy and cold where you live, and it's harder to get out to run because you have less daylight, and it's miserable because it's cold. So you probably have less races maybe in different seasons of the year in a 12-month span versus others. That being said, you could have new bills or obligations on your plate that limit your time. And really, time is probably the limiting factor with a lot of this training. You look at how much time do I have to run? How many days a week can I run or work out? What should I focus on in this off season in maintenance mode to preserve my fitness well enough that I don't lose everything, but that I could easily transition out of it into a formal training program for when I do want to start training specifically for an event or a race. It does depend a bit on your background, your running age, the type of aerobic base you may or may not have in terms of weekly mileage, weekly volume, the intensity you're training at, and what distance race you might target, be it in 4 months or 6 months or 8 months away, right? It could be a different time of the year. So it's good that your fitness ebbs and flows, and it's kind of to be expected. It's good to take planned breaks. I've done training talks on taking planned breaks after a race or a big event and resetting the system. But if you want to be in maintenance mode, maybe it's the off season, maybe things are busy, general aerobic fitness, moving the blood around is always good. So yes, maybe your mileage will drop. Your weekly fitness or your weekly kilometers or miles that you run or cycle each week, generally that could drop quite a bit. Now, if you kept the intensity really low and it was always easy conversational pace, which you probably should do most of the time, base building, your fitness would go downhill probably from peak training, but that's okay. That's okay. You're having fun. You're using different neuromuscular patterns, maybe more on that later, but you're giving yourself a little bit of a break from the training stress, the training load, the impact force, the repetitive strain of high mileage training that's, very formalized. Now we're going into a more informal setting in the maintenance mode off season, and, having low intensity is good, but having some moderate intensity could also spice things up. And that's going to help you maintain a certain level, a certain threshold, so to speak, that'll make it easier to transition for when you do want to ramp your training back up. But, you could take some time totally off. You should and could take some big breaks, and you could get into other activities. More on that later. It goes back to the neuromuscular change in stimulus. So, when I say moderate intensity, I'm usually talking about nothing hard, no high intensity hill reps or VO2 max intervals, nothing over 85, 90% max heart rate. But if you're doing it very sparingly, if you have maybe some fartlek running in there, fartleks or some light hill reps, maybe you're doing Zwift on the bike and you decide to do a steady hill climb, that's going to be okay, and that's going to help keep that heart rate and that breathing rate elevated, at least in little spikes here and there, and give you some dosages of fitness, and it's going to keep you active, so to speak, basically, because you start pushing the heart rate over 80% max, and you start hitting these different threshold zones, aerobic threshold and lactate threshold. We call them up-tempo workouts a lot on our higher running plans, but it's more like feel good, steady state running or exercising, rather than trying to really push the envelope and really put yourself in the hurt locker or the pain cave. But you could do that later. It's generally frowned upon, though, to induce a lot of lactic acid into the system if you don't have a substantial aerobic base first, especially if you're not training to peak out your fitness or for a peak event anytime soon, right? You want to be patient in this maintenance mode off season. So the other factor of being patient is the idea of general health and well-being and staying healthy and balanced. And if you're in this maintenance mode or off season, you probably don't have as much time to train because you're either really busy or it's winter or something like that, or you want to take a break. So it's good to do some other different cross-training activities. And this is beneficial twofold, because you get less impact force, especially if you're doing something like swimming or cycling or even cross-country skiing. A lot of athletes will transition in the winter to snow sports, right? If you live in a snowy area. But getting more effective with your workouts, maybe you're doing yoga and plank training, maybe you're doing different poses or some light strength work in a gym, but it's fast and efficient work. It's not these things that take hours and hours each day, because you probably have very limited time. So you're trying to hit the body at different levels in terms of almost like muscle confusion, so to speak. And you might be working motor patterns or movement patterns with different muscles slightly different than if you were just focused 100% on a full-on marathon training plan or something like that. So, if you're cross-country skiing, it's non-impact, you're using your arms more, you're engaging your core. It's a great cardiovascular workout, less impact force, less strain, and it could be a fun mental break for you as well, changing with the seasons. Likewise, if you're jumping on a bike, on Zwift, or you're jumping in the pool and swimming or aqua jogging, you're getting that break, and you're developing strength all around your body as an athlete. Hopefully that will help you become more resistant to injury for when you do start training seriously and ramping up mileage. So changing it up with different activities is also a key part of the maintenance mode, the off season, so to speak, in a really beneficial way. If your heart and lungs are breathing at a certain rate, if your pulse is going up, they're not going to know the difference. It's exercise. But the muscles will know the difference. The muscles and the tendons and bones will. So it's good to change that up and maybe even focus on your weakness more in the off season as well. If you know you have glute activation problems and you've had stabilization issues with your glute medius or your obliques or your core area around the hips, maybe doing specific strength training and stretches in the off season when you have time to focus on that more, instead of just focusing on running more kilometers per week or miles per week, could be very beneficial as well. So we focus on our weakness in the off season. We try to keep it fun and mix things up. Second part of that question is finding motivation in not doing hard race efforts necessarily. Maybe you don't have the funds to sign up. Race fees are pretty expensive, or you don't want to travel to a race or event, but you want to challenge yourself and motivate yourself for progression. Well, I think Strava FKTs, even if you have your own segment, your own private segment, or your own local hill to race up, comparing those hard efforts and hill climbs to previous efforts could be very motivational. It is for me at least. So you could have little challenges of going after fastest known times FKTs or personal bests on certain routes, be it up a mountain trail or a section of bike path or road or something like that. You could also, do specific workouts that you've done in the past. So repeating a workout, not every week necessarily, but once a month, you could see progression maybe in a workout. And it might not be a super formal, high intensity, hard workout. It could be, I set my treadmill at 10% uphill grade and I do an up-tempo run for 30 minutes and I know what speed I averaged and I know what my average heart rate was. Well, I do that workout again in a month after some training, and all of a sudden I could do the same workout at the same speed, same weather conditions, but my heart rate has gotten lower because it's less taxing, and subjectively it felt easier because I got in better shape. That's good progression. That's motivating, at least to me. So, doing the same workouts over, recognizing when you have progression in your fitness, be it it's easier to breathe, or your muscles don't get as sore, or you feel stronger overall, or you just have a lower average heart rate, that could be very satisfying as well as doing, you could go to the track and do time trials as well. Might not quite be as fun as a race, but if you don't have you know, if you're not committed to a race, it's a good way to motivate yourself and keep after it. So that's it on this training talk. Again, comment below with future training talk topics you guys would like to hear about. Again, thank you so much to all the Patreon supporters for really making this channel possible. Shout out to title sponsor Hoka, keeping the dream alive. Got more Training for UTMB series coming your way. Exciting stuff. Be traveling a bit. Got some new camera gear. But yeah, thank you again for everyone that supports our business at higherrunning.com, selling training plans that Coach Sandy and I have developed over the years through our coaching. Check out her channel, Running Wild. Thank you so much again. Hope you're doing well, and stay tuned for more VO2 Max Productions.